Welcome to the Unstuck podcast. I'm your host, Sean Miner. This weekly no-fluff mindset show arms you with the practical tools you need to get unstuck so you can get exactly what you want out of life. Remember, when you change your mind, your life will follow. Let's get into today's episode. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Unstuck. Thank you so much for joining me yet again today. It's a big one today. It's a big, juicy, deep one. We're getting into some good stuff all about redesigning your beliefs. That's a term I completely made up, but I love it because when you think of redesign, you kind of think it's fun, it's creative, you're in charge, you get to make any changes you want. We're redesigning things in our head, which is supposed to be fun and creative, and you're in control. So it works kind of perfectly. Before we get into the meat of today's episode, I have a few quick things to let you know about. First of all, back, if you'll remember, in episode 1 of Unstuck, it was the intro episode, I mentioned how I wanted you as the listener to be a part of the show. I want to highlight your mindset work and things that have happened in your life because of what you've done in working on your mental and emotional health, the things that we talk about on this show. Anything that has happened because of that work, I want to hear about it, and I want to feature you on an episode of Unstuck. I finally have set up a way to do so. If you go to seanminer.com/unstuck podcast, that is the webpage for this entire show. So everything I ever talk about will be right there just for future reference. But head there and you will see the instructions on how to share your story. So it is basically a voice message. You're going to leave me a voicemail, 1 to 5 minutes, I'd say, in length, just short and sweet, just letting the listeners know a success story that you've had. I really think that with this kind of work that we're doing here, it helps so much when you're trying to make a change and you're trying to live a new habit and incorporate this new lifestyle. It helps to hear from others who have done it that may have some things that you can relate to, some stories that seem very similar to your stories, and it really helps give a little nudge to those that are still in this process of how it can look on the other side. So I want your success stories. I would love to hear from you. Go to seanminer.com/unstuck podcast. The instructions are right there on how to leave me a voicemail. I will feature you on the podcast. Don't worry, it doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to hear from you as the real beautiful human that you are, and just share something about your mindset journey. We would all love to hear from you. The second thing is, I guess it was maybe a week or so ago, which by I mean not me at all, my team, my designer created some digital wallpapers for you all. They are free. There's a bunch to choose from, and it's just basically a way for all of us to have these little affirmations throughout the day. And really, no matter how mindful we are, our electronics are still the focal point of our lives. I think we can all agree with that to some degree. So phone, tablet, and computer wallpapers for your home screens. And they all have just little tiny blurbs of positivity, things you're working on, and they're beautiful. They make your electronics look awesome. I created them all for you. They're free. They are part of a secret, exclusive wallpaper library that you can have access to. So if you go to seanminer.com/wallpapers, that's seanminer.com/wallpapers, you can get access to that library. You'll always have access. And so as new ones come about, because I'm looking to add at least 1 or 2 every month, especially we'll start getting into themes of the month 2 over there, which will be fun. You'll have this constant stream of new, beautiful, positive, affirming wallpapers for you. So for instance, right now on my computer screen, it says "Be happy now." So it's reminding me of my 3 favorite words. And then on my phone, I have be still and chill, which is desperately needed in my life right now. Every time I pick up my phone, I'm like, oh, oops, I'm supposed to be chilling and relaxing, not working all hours of the day, which is something I am working on myself in my mindset work. So yeah, head over there, seanminer.com/wallpapers. Again, they are free. They will be updated regularly. You'll be the first to know when they are updated. You'll have forever access to that library so you can switch them up as often as you like. All right, let's get into the heart of the episode today. I'll start, of course, with a quote. This is from Wayne Dyer. The only limits you have are the limits you believe. So this is where we get into redesigning our beliefs. And I think you probably on the surface know, okay, if I have a belief, even if I've had it since childhood, I can still change it. I think you know that on the surface level, but then I also think that a lot of us, first of all, don't have the first idea how and don't really believe that it can happen because they are so deeply ingrained in our lives and who we are and what we think and how we react and all that stuff. It almost just seems overwhelming and or not possible, even though we know it probably is possible. I'm going to teach you how. I will say right here and right now, it's not easy, of course. Once again, let me just say that in every single episode. It's not easy. It is possible. And I won't even say it's simple. In this stage of the game, there are a lot of steps, there are a lot of possibilities, there are a lot of different ways that it can go, but we'll go over them and you'll have a much clearer picture in the next 30 minutes of what you're supposed to do now. And that's because, remember, if you go back to episode 5, why do you do what you do? This is what we talked about. We talked about the belief system. And as a reminder, beliefs are an acceptance that something about yourself or your life is true. So it's an acceptance that something is true. It's not that that thing is actually true. Big difference there. Many of the beliefs we hold about ourselves are those limiting beliefs. And the limiting ones, as you can tell by this way it sounds, are the negative, false opinions we have about both ourselves and life in general. I just really feel like so much of the work that we really truly need to be doing on our mindset, like 75% of it is just digging through those darn limiting beliefs and finding out what they are, how they got there, and then changing them, which is this belief redesign. And then from there, it's like so much more, I guess the other 25%, so much more that we talk about here. Once you've cleared up the muck that comes with those limiting beliefs, then that other stuff, that 25% other stuff actually works, and you can actually attach it to your life and your mindset and your thoughts, and it works and you feel a heck of a lot better. Obviously, limiting beliefs bring us down mentally, physically, and emotionally. They keep us in this low vibe, stuck place, which is the whole point why we're here, right? Listening to the Unstuck podcast. And we can't break free from them no matter how hard we try, no matter how much we're like, yeah, I'm just not going to believe that. I'm going to think something different. I'm going to try really hard to not think that about myself. It's almost impossible until you go through the actual steps. And it also hinders the other work we're doing on ourselves. It makes it hard, if not impossible, to actually tap into your intuition, which we learned in episode 7. Your connection with the universe is fuzzy at best. And so no matter how often you journal, how often you meditate, take your self-care time, all the stuff that we learn here, it still doesn't actually stick, like fully 100% integrate into you and your mind and your body and your life, because those negative limiting beliefs are still hanging out inside of you as well. So as you can see, a lot of the additional work here we do on Unstuck and will continue to do will be hindered until you do some belief redesign. And that's what we will do here today. Again, if you need more of a reminder on what your beliefs actually are or how you find them, go back to episode 5 and you can learn more about that. But just overall know that they are really the core of what we think, how we act, what we say, how we feel. It dictates the jobs we get, the amount of money we make, the relationships we do or don't have, our health, our weight, our diet and exercise behavior. Basically, how your life plays out and how you think about life and view life is because of your belief system. Many times, all of this happens without us even knowing why, because our beliefs have been tucked away deep into that subconscious mind of ours, that 95% of our brain. Our beliefs then become our identity. So then if we want to change something in our overall life, anything in our lives, if we want to change something, we have to change that belief around it in order for that thing to change and actually stick. So we can't just decide something's going to change. We have to kind of go back through that lineage to get all the way to the belief that made it to be that way in the first place and change the belief. So now you can see why belief redesign absolutely has to be something that you are incorporating into your life regularly, especially right now when you're starting this mindset work to get the life you want. To get what you want, you have to do some belief redesign. That's why we're talking about it right here, episode 9, really quickly into Unstuck, because it's going to make a big difference for the future. Beliefs are also at the core of self-sabotage. And if that's something that you have trouble with and you haven't already done my coaching opportunity on self-sabotage, make sure to head to seanminer.com/empower and you can get in on that. It's a 90-minute coaching call with me and slides and homework assignments and worksheets and all that stuff, all about self-sabotage and the beliefs that you have that are really at the heart of why you sabotage yourself. All right, so let's go over a few examples of what limiting beliefs might be at play. Now, these are some common limiting beliefs. There are probably a million possibilities out there for you. Everyone is totally different, so keep that in mind, but these are just a few common ones. I'm not lovable and worthy of a good relationship. I hate, dislike, am unhappy with my body. Money is hard to come by. I'm not beautiful. Only thin people are attractive. Diets are the only way to lose weight. I'm not athletic enough to be fit. I'm not smart enough to have that particular job, make that particular amount of money, start my own business, XYZ. I'm too old or too young to do XYZ. I don't deserve to be successful. Really, anything after I don't deserve would be a common limiting belief. I don't have time to do XYZ. So you can see these are all some common things that maybe you've thought or have been kind of at the heart of why you don't do things. Again, might be totally unaware that this is what your thinking is, that thought process is when you actually do or don't do that thing. But that's why we're here doing the work to dig it up. Let's see now how some of these, just some examples, how this would potentially dictate how your life looks. So if you think that you are unlovable and unworthy of a good relationship, you might sabotage a good relationship. You might avoid getting into relationships at all, or you could stay in a bad relationship long after you should have. Your ego talk, so this is very much where we can see the difference in the ego versus intuition, and your ego will always speak to your beliefs. So that's another really key piece. Your ego will always speak to your belief system, those limiting beliefs. Your ego talk will come up with all kinds of quote unquote rational reasons why you are behaving this way, when really none of it is actually the truth at all. And all of this is happening without you even knowing, quite possibly. Here's another one. If you think you're not athletic enough to be fit, then you might resist working out at all. You might not put actual solid effort into the workouts that you do when you actually do them. Or you might start a fitness routine only to quit a few weeks in, because deep internal belief is that really it's not going to work anyway because you're not athletic enough. You'll never get fit because of that lack of athleticism. And here's a third. If you hate your body, you might care more about trying to change it than trying to get healthy and use unhealthy approaches to get there. Or you sabotage your healthy habits in favor of body changing habits. And if you have been following me for a while, you very clearly know the difference between a healthy habit and a body changing habit. That would be like restricting calories, dieting, crazy diet hopping tactics, all that stuff in favor of fueling and nourishing your body. That would be just one example of the difference there. Or you could act in hateful ways towards your body, which would be like eating damaging or harmful foods, binging, emotional eating. Obviously, any form of eating disorder would come in here. Drinking harmful amounts of alcohol, refusing to move your body in a healthy manner. And all of this keeps the body you want forever out of reach because you have these negative, limiting beliefs about your body. And this kind of scenario is what prompted me to start the Unstuck podcast and prompted me to start talking more about mindset, because this exact scenario is what I have seen thousands of times in the women that I have worked with being a holistic healthcare provider. This exact one, they're so focused on hating their body and trying to change it that it actually does the exact opposite because of the mindset that they have and the work they have not yet done on their beliefs. All right, now let's get into how to change all of this, how to do a belief redesign on yourself. Really, it's all about awareness. Remember, so much of what we do is just about knowing. I really think that so much can change, like so much about your life can change if you just know what you're thinking and you choose to play a different soundtrack. Like, oh, I don't actually have to believe this. Like, I see what I'm thinking, where it's coming from, and I don't have to do this. I can make up a new story that I do want to play in my head all of the time that feels a lot better and sounds a lot more true. It's just like if you're fast forwarding when a song comes up on Spotify that you don't like. This happens to me all the time. For some reason, they think I like hardcore rap and I don't. So I have to fast forward whenever I get those hardcore rap songs that come up. All you do is push a button. You put one button and something better comes up, and you can keep passing up on those songs until you find something that feels really good. The same thing happens with your thoughts and beliefs. You can choose to pass that thought and make a better option for yourself. Play a different soundtrack over and over. Here's how we do that. Tip number 1, find your true self. So become aware of that negative self-talk and separate it from you. This is very similar to what we do with the ego versus intuition. If we can start seeing our negative self-talk as just like almost like the devil on our shoulder, it's something else besides our true selves. Separate yourself from that negative self-talk. Why is this important? Well, within that self-talk lies your limiting beliefs. Sometimes they're hidden and it takes some digging to get there, but they are in there. If you start noticing that negative self-talk and start kind of analyzing a little bit, seeing now that it's not actually you, it's just this chatter in your head, what is it actually saying and where is it coming from? Where does it get the idea that that's what it should think or say to you? This step is really a continuation of trying to determine what your limiting beliefs are. From episode 5, we did a little bit of that work. And then here we are again. This is another tip on how to dig in and find out what those actually are. So find your true self, dig into that negative self-talk. And another way to really get very clear on what your limiting beliefs are is to keep asking yourself why. This is tip number 2. Ask yourself why as much as you can. Here are some kind of lead-in questions, I guess, that you can write down and start thinking about. This would be a great time to get out your journal and go through these questions. What goals are always out of reach for you? Why? What are your undesirable habits? Why do you do them? Where do you feel challenged? Is it finances, relationships, health, finding your purpose or your passion, your business or career, your body? Where do you feel challenged? And there can be more than one answer there. Why? Why do you feel challenged? What is keeping you from pursuing your dream? Why? Just ask yourself why as much as you possibly can. Even going back to that negative self-talk, again, apply the why situation there. Oh, I just thought this. That is clearly negative self-talk. Why did I think that? Again, remember, you're asking yourself why. You're getting to the root cause, and that is your belief, your limiting belief right there. All right, so now that we've gotten a pretty good idea of what our beliefs are, and I guess I should break in here right now and let you know that it's okay if you don't know exactly what your beliefs are still. I know I've said this before and I want to reiterate. I don't want you to beat yourself up if you're like, I still don't know why I do what I do. I know I don't want to be doing it anymore, but I don't know why. That is okay. As long as you have the idea of what it is how you're behaving, I guess, and how you want to change that, then that can be enough to continue on this journey. So especially with this next one, how does it feel? This is your tip number 3. When you have those limiting beliefs, what feelings or emotions come with that? This will be an important step in being able to spot when your beliefs are coming into play too, because you may not notice always what you're thinking all the time, but you'll feel that same feeling. So there's a way to connect that to see when those beliefs are coming into play, probably in a place that's more habitual for you, that you aren't necessarily thinking that's the case, but you'll feel that feeling, and then you can stop there and see it in action. And then instead of working to change the thought, you can work to just feel a little better. Remember, going back to episode 3 on the emotional frequency scale, you can work to change your emotion. If you can't quite tap into that thought right then and there, you can at least work to change the emotion that you're having and feel a little bit better at that point, and then change that feeling by doing something or saying something to yourself that makes you feel good. So working your way up the emotional frequency scale, regardless of whether you know what your belief is doing right then and there. And this, again, if you don't know exactly your beliefs, you can start just kind of looking for those negative emotion. When do those happen? Can you make a connection of, man, I always feel this way around this time when I'm, trying to figure out what to eat, or when I ate something I shouldn't and then I feel bad, or, I go on the dating app and I don't want to go on a date, whatever it is. You may not know the thought that will then get you to the belief, but maybe you could start with the feeling that will then get you to the thought that will then get you to the belief. So remember, we have to connect. They are all always connected. So we have to connect those dots for ourselves. So make sure you're looking into how you feel too. Tip number 4, I think it is. I already lost track. Where or how did this originate? Now, again, I think this could be optional for you if it is really hindering your progress, trying to go back and think about how or when this all started. So what we really want to try to do is figure out, when did you start believing this? Where did this belief come from? Did your parents have this belief too? Your grandparents, your siblings, your friends, people you hung out with all the time when you were younger? Were you told this about yourself or about life by someone else? Where or how did this originate? Was there some sort of event where you were made fun of or someone said something to you? And then from there on, you've had this belief and started acting this way. We really do want to find out where this originates. But like I said, if like going back through is causing you so much strife trying to figure it out, I'd rather you just continue through this process instead of keeping you stuck on this tip or on this step trying to figure it out. If you really don't know, you can absolutely still make progress without needing to know the origin. I just think it's really helpful because then you can kind of, see that it's not true. And that's really the next step. So let's get into that. Step number 5, or I guess tip number 5, these don't necessarily have to be done all in order all the time, but tip number 5, do you know for a fact that this is true? Can you prove it? You really at this point are trying to create some doubt in yourself about your beliefs. You're trying to get some cracks in that armor. You don't actually probably know that that belief is true, because if it were, it would be a fact. It wouldn't be a belief. So you don't actually know that that is true. If you can prove it, it becomes a fact, but try to prove it. Try to make it 100% true. Prove it to yourself. You won't be able to. You will not be able to. There are some cracks in that armor, and that's exactly what we want, because then we move on to tip number 6, which is what can you do to prove this wrong? Now, we can't say with 100% certainty that it is true, which means then we can work to prove it wrong. You are trying to prove your limiting belief wrong, which means you have to do some real work here, some action steps. And the cool thing is you can just take little tiny baby steps because they turn into massive changes and shifts, which is what we're looking for. So what small thing can you do to prove that belief wrong? And you'll know you're on the right track because it's going to feel scary. You won't want to do it. It will feel scary. It will go against your ego wanting to stay in your comfort zone, but we got to do it anyway. So for instance, say you want to be in a relationship, you want to find a partner, you're having a hard time, you don't want to be single anymore, but you have a limiting belief around relationships. Maybe it is that you're not lovable and worthy of a good relationship, that you're not attractive enough for a relationship, nobody will like you, you're just going to get hurt, whatever. There's so many that it could be when it comes to romantic relationships. You've got to do the work to find it for yourself. I had to do the work to find mine. It was there. I had no idea, but it was there. And I uncovered it and redesigned it and then found my partner. But in the meantime, while you're doing this work, what's one small thing that you can do to prove that wrong, that you are not lovable and worthy of a relationship? Because clearly there's some major cracks in that armor that is not a fact, right? So now we prove it wrong. You could go out and buy a quote unquote date outfit, just get prepared to go on your next date, buy a cute outfit for that date. You could tell everyone you know that you're on the market, your hairdresser, the person checking you out at Whole Foods, the car wash guy, whoever. Just tell everyone that you're on the market. If they know anybody that would be a good match, you'd be happy to meet up with them, that kind of thing. You could join a dating app. That would be a good step. Start getting yourself out there. And you could even just start a conversation with a stranger. And it doesn't have to be someone that you think is attractive that you want to date. It could be like the 80-year-old woman in front of you at the grocery store. You're still getting into the position of putting yourself out there, which is often what's needed to go on a date. And you're getting used to making small talk, which also is needed for a first date. And who knows, that 80-year-old in the grocery line may have a single son or single daughter or granddaughter or grandson, someone that they know that you would be a perfect match for. And you never know, maybe by sparking up that conversation, it becomes that. You literally never, ever know. So those are baby steps that you can take. That's just an example. So you need to go through and find your own baby steps that you can take to prove yourself wrong. Prove yourself wrong. Tiny steps make a big difference. That's all you need to do. And then lastly, repetition. You need to create affirmations for yourself of the opposite and put them everywhere. Say them out loud, look yourself in the mirror, write them in your journal every day, put them places you will see often. Things like, I'm lovable, I deserve a healthy relationship, I can attract the person of my dreams if you are this person looking for a relationship, I deserve abundance, my body is fit and capable, I am athletic. You are basically writing the opposite of your belief and putting it everywhere, saying it every single time it pops up, making that your mantra. Repetition is so important for this work. So it may seem kind of crazy. Trust me, it's not. This is how we can rewire our brain, to put it very lightly. I mean, I could go into all the science about rewiring your brain. It really is a thing. This is how we do it, by repetition. All right, so those are the steps. Let me just give you your first step, although I really think you have to go through all of these, and I will be happy to do that with you in the Unstuck Project, my new class coming out in January 2020. This is just some of the work we will do there. Basically, everything we talk about here on Unstuck is what we do in that course together. So it actually is making you go through this process, making you do the work instead of just listening to a podcast episode and thinking that's all you need to do. So yeah, January 2020, I'd love to have you be a part of that course. You can head to shawnminer.com/unstuck and get on the VIP list. That means you will be the first to know when the new course opens for enrollment and when it will get started. You'll get all the best deals, everything. If you go put your name on that VIP list that you want to be in on this new Mindset for Women course that I spent a year, literally 1 year, creating for you. But anyway, until then, let me just break off a little chunk of everything I said and have you start with just noticing your negative self-talk. Again, we already know we're going to separate it from ourselves, but then notice what it says, I guess. Notice those negative thoughts that come up and then ask yourself why. So not only are we noticing now, we're asking ourselves why. Why did I think that just then? Where did that come from? Get more inquisitive with yourself. Again, journaling will be immensely helpful here, really in everything that we do, but definitely with this exercise for sure. All right, that will wrap things up for today. Thank you all so much for joining me. And again, thank you all so much for your continued support of this podcast and really just overall this passion project that I'm taking on right now in the mindset work I'm doing. Again, if you would like to help out the show, leave a review on iTunes, share this episode or the whole podcast with someone you know that could benefit from it, even with your whole Instagram community, whatever you think feels good for you. I appreciate every single share, every single review. I think I've only had, this is episode 9. I think there's like 110 5-star reviews already. That is incredible. Thank you all so much. Everyone that has taken the time to do that. I'm ever so grateful for you all, and we'll continue to spread the word on this very important work for every single woman out there. All right, take care. I'll see you next week.